and welcome to Facebook Live. Today I'm going to be talking to you all about fluid writers, which are these amazing things here. I'm going to be showing you what I have done with them in the past, and I'm going to be showing you, more importantly, how you can use them on your cakes too. Now, I'm Lindy Smith, so please tell me what your questions are. Tell me who you are, where you come from, and what you'd like to know about doodle pens. And it'd be lovely to get the conversation going. So do tell me what your questions. I know lots of you have got questions about the fluid writers, and they're becoming known as doodle pens, which I think is a lovely term. Behind me, you'll see a picture which is from the front cover of my Simply Modern Wedding Cake book, and that was the first cake I did with using the fluid writer to create a wonderful pattern. Some of you might have my craftsy class. I've got a photo, there we go, here of another cake that I made using the fluid writer, and I will give you links at the end to both the book and the craftsy class, which is called Contemporary Cake Design, so that you can have a little bit more of a look and get some more ideas what you can do. But I'm going to talk about the pens first, and more importantly what goes inside the pen, because that's a question I'm getting asked a lot. I'm going to flip the camera here and show you some of the liquids I use, because what you actually need is a liquid that will go through the very fine tip. If you look at this, I can't get the camera to focus on very close, but it's a very fine tube, hollow tube for want of a better word, and you need a liquid that's going to go through the tube and doesn't clog it up. So what I found is some of the liquid colours, if they're not water-based, they are too thick and they won't flow through the tube easily. Now the pens come in two sizes. This is the fine one, which is what I've used on the cake that's behind me. There's also a larger one, which is this one here, and I'm going to demonstrate with both of them in a little while. And you'll see, oh, we've got people saying hello already. Good morning, oh, good afternoon actually, isn't it now? We've got Amy from Hampshire, and Marcia says thank you, so that's lovely. I shall move on and show you the colours that I'm using. So water-based is the important thing. So I'm just going to flip the camera for a moment and show you, hi Sarah from Yorkshire, the colours that I'm using. Okay, so here we go. We've got a selection of colours. I use the Squire's colours, which is the green one in the front. The Cassie Brown ones work really well as well, and I've put a little bit of in this dish on the side here. And what you'll see, if I've actually put water in, mixed it, the red one that is, with some water to give me a pink colour, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a little while. The gold that's in the dish only works in the larger pens. What I found is it won't work in the small one, but it does on the larger ones. So that's what you should be using. By all means try other things, but what you'll find won't work is your paste colours, because they've got other additives in them. They're too thick. You need to, even diluted with water, they don't seem to flow in the same way as what you need. So the next question I'm going to answer is how you fill the pens. So what I'm going to do is just pop my camera over this way, and over here I've got some blue colouring. So this is straight out of the pot. It's a liquid colour, so it's water-based, and the thing to do when you're wondering about your colours is to look at the back, look at the ingredients. If I just bring this one over, here we go, if I just turn that over, you can, I don't know if you can focus, but it tells you that the first ingredient, will it focus? I don't know, we'll see, but anyway, you know, it's got to be water anyway. So what you do is you bring your fluid writer in, and you dip a paintbrush into the liquid. The next thing you want to do is, if I can do that, is just to pop the paintbrush inside the little receptacle. Now these have been very cleverly engineered to write on vertical surfaces, which is why they work so well on the sides of cakes. So you fill that as full as you can make it. You then obviously want the ink to flow. Now you've got to get it through this very fine tube at the bottom. Now one way I found that works is just by placing it on kitchen paper. So this is just some paper towel or kitchen paper, and it just makes the ink flow. If that doesn't work for you, what I suggest you do is just get a little bit of water and to pop the pen into the water, and that helps get the flow working. So just I've actually stopped it working. That won't do, will it? The other thing, if you're having real problems, is the pen actually comes with this little thing. Can you see that? It's a little wire. And what you can do with the wire is you can actually poke it either through this way, like that, to get the ink, to draw the ink down, or if you're having problems doing it that way, you can do it that way. It depends which way you can see better and what works for you. I find the other end usually works, but there you are. I just push that through, and that helps get the ink flowing. The other thing you can do is give it a little shake. Whoops, making camera. I've actually blocked this one, haven't I? That won't do. It always happens when you go live on air. Oh, we've got people, someone from Dresden in Germany. Wonderful, hello. And Diane says, hope I'm well. I'm very well, thank you, Diane. I'm just trying to get my doodle pen to work. And of course, when you're live on air, it doesn't work so well sometimes. Let me get another colour for you to show you. Right, here we are. This is a green one, which I put in the larger pen. So what I'm going to do now is actually show you some doodling. So once you've filled your pen, you need to obviously make sure you've got enough in there. I'm just going to put a bit more blue in this because I only put a little bit in at the beginning. And I have been doodling with it, so maybe it needs a little bit more. Okay. There we are. It did look, it was empty. There we go. So that's the blue working nicely. So I'm just going to turn my camera around a little and you can see some that I've already been doing. Now, as I said, there were two sizes of pen. The finer one, which is the one that's in my hand now, is doing the smaller scrolls, and it's brilliant for when you want to doodle. And you see I'm just going round and round, and now obviously I'm doing little scrolls here. You can do any shape you like. Yes, somebody says maybe the ink I'd loaded had run out. It had, you're right. Okay, so drawing, you can draw anything you like. I just love drawing scrolls. Obviously circles are easy and dots are even easier. As you can see, I'm just doing this on paper to start with. Now, when you're learning how the Fluid Writer works, it's a really good idea to do it on paper, because if you press too hard on the paper and it scratches, what you'll find is when you get to do it on a cake, you'll be pushing the nib into the cake rather than just letting it flow on top. So this is the fine one. Now, if I write with a fine one, it gets very spidery. I will write just to show you, which is okay on a cookie or something small, but if you want to write on a big cake and write happy birthday or something, then it's a little bit on the small side. To swap over to the larger one, which is this one here, it's just, whoops, no, that one's not, the ink's not running on that one. Let's see if the ink is running on this one. Yeah, I've got the gold one here. So this is the gold one, which I loaded earlier. So that is much thicker. And actually I find with the gold one, I've got to use it, I've got to go more slowly when I'm writing so that the ink has time to flow. Like that. Let's see if I can make this green one work. No, I need to put it, I can tell. With the green one, I don't know if I can get this, if I get to, there you are, if I look through that, can you see, you can see all the way through the pipe and you can tell that there's absolutely nothing in it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you some examples of where I've used it. So I'm just going to bring a little cake in. Now this is what I did last week when I was doing stenciling on Facebook Live, and I did some gold. The colour is all with a stencil pattern, but I've embellished it. Can you see on the side there? So this particular paisley shape, I've added lots of gold details in, just using the pen. And I'm going to just flip round here. Actually, I'm going to bring in some pieces of royal icing because it works really, really well. Oh, I'll show you the pram first. Basically, this is a lot of piped and flooded, and then all those little flowers are done with the small doodle writer. And then over here, I've got some numbers which I've embellished using the doodle pen, and I've got another doodle writer over here, and this is the one I've loaded with the pink ink. So can you see here I've got a number 3, and I'm just going to show you how it works. I'm just going to draw some little very pale pink dots, and you can obviously embellish hearts, you can do whatever you like, but it's just showing you that it works beautifully on royal icing. Now these, as I say, were just left over from a previous class. So they're beautifully hard, and I can just draw on them as much as I like, really. Okay, so somebody's saying beautiful work, and someone else said they've been desperately waiting for this particular Facebook Live. Wonderful, thank you very much for waiting and being patient. I've got lots of requests for all sorts of different techniques that people want to see me do, so you have to be patient. Okay, right, what I'm going to show you now, or talk about now, I'm going to flip the camera again, is the sugar paste before we move on to cake. So let me just flip the camera. Will it flip? There we go, back to me. Right, now it's very important that when you want to doodle on the side of a cake that your sugar paste is completely dry. What you'll find that if it isn't completely dry is the nib, this bit, will just sink into the cake and you've got nothing to press against. So what I'm going to talk about now is different types of sugar paste, because over the last few weeks in the UK we've had really, really humid conditions and our sugar paste hasn't been drying out at all. I ran an experiment a couple of weeks ago using different types of sugar paste, leaving them out in my studio to see what happened to them overnight. Some of them went completely liquid on the surface and some of them didn't, and I did various tests, and you'll find the results actually on my Facebook page. If you scroll down a little bit you'll see what happens. But I've actually left those tests out the last couple of weeks, and I've got them here so I can show you, because it's still not 100% dry here. We've still got a bit of humidity in the air, and some of these pastes are still too wet to doodle on. So I've got one here. Now this one was the Fronderific paste, and it's the softest. It's still not dried at all. It's still as if it came out of the packet. So that one would be no good for doodling on. It'd be fantastic for covering a cake, for using on cupcakes and doing all sorts of other things, but it wouldn't work very well for doing this particular technique. I've now got these colours. Now this one is Renshaw's and this one is still soft in my studio. I don't have a particularly dry studio here. I'm going to wait a little while. I think if I was using these pastes, I would wait till I have my heating on. We're not quite cold enough yet. And this one is a supermarket paste. So we've got a Renshaw and a supermarket. Both of them are too soft right now to doodle with, but brilliant for covering cakes and doing other things on. The next two I've dried completely hard. This one, the blue one, is Massating. I can't pronounce it. The massa paste, yeah. And this one is the Tropic. So this one is completely hard. I tried what I'm trying to say, knead it, but it wouldn't. It just broke up. So that's these two. If I covered a cake with them, let it dry, would be absolutely perfect today for doodling on. So that's, if you're having problems with your fluid writer or doodle pen, it may be because of the paste you're using. You must make sure that the paste has dried with a really nice firm finish. I've got a cake over here which isn't dry, and I'm going to just show you what happens. It is possible to doodle, but what you do find is, as I said, the nib goes in. The other thing that you have to watch out when you're covering a cake is you want a beautifully smooth finish, which the massa paste gives you. Because if you have that crazing, sometimes you get the crazing on the surface of your sugar paste, the ink will spread down all those little cracks and it starts to look really not very nice. So I'm going to flip the pen and show you on this cake. So you're going to, hopefully the camera will focus and you'll see. Bear with me, I shall just flip the camera. Okay, here we go. So I was just having a go this morning, just trying to doodle on here. I'm hoping it's going to focus. Here we go. Can you see it's sort of scratched over the surface? Now this is a cake that it's a dummy cake. I was using it in class a few weeks ago and I've just had it sort of sitting around in my studio. So I know that the paste that I covered it with is only a cheap supermarket paste. So it wouldn't work, it doesn't work particularly well today. I wouldn't be able to continue and easily doodle over the surface of the whole of the cake. Okay, I'm going to flip it back to me and I'd like to ask you if you've got any questions. So please ask me questions. It's a fabulous technique as long as you've got the ink flowing in your pen and you've got really nice dry sugar paste. I say if you want to start on royal icing, that might be easier for you. But if you've got really dry sugar paste, then it should work a treat. So somebody's asking, it works over fondant as well. Yes, fondant, sugar paste, one and the same things. We use different terms in different countries, which can get incredibly confusing, particularly on the internet. Oops, a daisy. Now, if I will post links to my book, which is behind me at the end, and I will also give you a link to the Craftsy class where you can actually see me do it, actually on a cake. And if you watch the trailer, you'll see me do it as well. If you want to ask questions at the end, once we go offline, then please do that and I'll answer them. We've got Charmaine from Trinidad. Hello there, it's nice to see you. And who just says, can we use airbrush colours? Of course you can, as long as they're water-based ones. If you use alcohol ones, I find they don't flow as well. They probably work okay in the larger pen, but not the very fine one. You'll find that you want a water-based colour, and then they work really well. Somebody says, Trish is asking, does it work on modelling chocolate? If you use the gold and the large pen on modelling chocolate, yes it does. I haven't tried the smaller one. I would have thought that it wouldn't be hard enough, to be honest, but by all means try it. You only find out these things, don't you, by trying. And we've got a Puerto Rico, fantastic. And somebody said, Maria says, you practice. It's all about practice. As always, with any new technique, you've got to get familiar with the tool itself, and you've got to find what works for you. And I think different climates affect how the pen works. I was teaching this for my Craftsy class in Denver, and there it was really hot. I know outside it was 38 degrees, and it was really dry. And what happened was the pen, if I wasn't using it, kept drying up. And I discovered actually what happened, I'll just get this over here, which is what I talked to you about earlier, is if it does dry in the nib, is just to drop it into some water, and that helps it flow again. The other thing too is you can fill the pen and then just leave it on the side. It can also go upside down. People say, what happens? Does it matter? Will it spill out? Unlike my airbrush, which does spill, this one doesn't. It's very cleverly designed. Mabel's asking, what about chocolate covered apples? Oh, what a fantastic idea. I think if you use the gold, it would, and the larger pen. And Nat's asking, is it available in Australia? I really don't know, Nat. We send these out all over the world, so you're very welcome to buy them from us, and we'll ship them very quickly to you because they are quite small, so it can be sent airmail quite quickly. We've got from Austria, Mariella, hello, and Victoria Davis from Carmarthenshire in Wales. How easy is it to change colours? Good question. Thank you, Victoria. Very easy. All I do is I take my pen and I put it under a running tap, which then flushes out the with water, flushes out the colour. I then take the water out of the nozzle by using a piece of paper, the kitchen paper. Then I put my new colour in, make sure I then use the paper again to pull out any diluted colour. I then use the colour. Normally I use the colours neat, but not always. You saw me earlier make a pale pink using water and red. If you all you have is the primary colours, obviously you can mix them. So if you wanted a green and you had yellow and blue, you just mix them. So it's the same colour principles as anything with cake decorating. Right, I'm just seeing if there's any more questions. We've got a few hearts going across the page. I love it when you send hearts and thumbs up. That's really, really nice. Mabel says, are they expenses to show to the US, to us? Not quite sure the question, but we retail them at £19.50, and I think that's a really good bargain because you can use as many colours as you want in them, and you don't have to buy a new pen for each colour. You just have one, and you can use it again and again and change colours as I've just described. And Mabel says to ship. I can't remember how much it would cost to ship. If what you do is you go onto our online shop, pop it in your basket, and then go to the actual basket, you can change your destination, and you can ask, it'll tell you for your destination what your postage will be, and it gives you various options. It says, question, can we dilute metallic colours with normal colours? Experiment. That's the thing to do. Find some colours that work and then experiment with what you've got, and then you'll find out if it does work or it doesn't. I think a lot depends on the climate and the temperature as to what will go through the very fine nib. Amanda says, have you used it with stencils for designs on the side of cakes? I cannot draw to save my life. What I've done, Amanda, is use a stencil and then to embellish the stencil. Because what I find is, I've tried it where you put a stencil on and then tried drawing through the stencil, but that didn't really work. We just got into a bit of a mess. But what you can do is emboss sugar paste. So if you put a stencil onto some sugar paste, press down on it, and then that will leave a pattern. You can then let that dry and then use that as the guide. So that's the way I would use stencils, is to emboss sugar paste and then embellish the embossing basically. And what else have we got? Rebecca says, please can you show it how it works? I've just started watching. Rebecca, if you after we finish talking to you, I will post this live so you can go back and watch again, and then you'll see how I load it and how I use it. And one trick also, which I will actually bring up, is I will bring my, I've got this, here we go, this is what I was doing earlier. You'll see it backwards. Can you see I've written hello backwards, and also behind all the writings backwards? It's because I'm using the forward facing camera. When you're practicing, practice obviously on a horizontal surface, but also practice on a vertical surface, because you need to, oops, I need to hold, oh, I need to do like here, don't I? You need to make sure that you can get the ink flowing beautifully. Can you see how that just flows? This is what you want to do on your cake. You want to make sure that you just keep going. You don't take it off the surface, or if you do, it's fine. What you mustn't do when you're on a cake, particularly in a more humid environment, is you mustn't leave the ink, the pen, on the surface, because what will happen is the ink will pool, which will give you a lovely big dot, but you probably didn't want that. And so the beauty obviously is it's quite therapeutic, it's quite quick. You just let the ink flow, and I love doing it. I really do. In the book and on my Craftsy class, I give you various pointers as to how you can doodle, because you can do, you know, all sorts of scrolls and lines and dots. It's what we've always done, isn't it? We've had, you know, a pen in our hand. I know when I'm on the phone, I often doodle on a piece of paper. One tip is, when you're doodling, is to start with a shape. So here I've got scrolls. It's much easier to doodle around, say, a shape. So draw yourself a shape and then start doodling from that shape. That gives you a base from where to start. I don't know about you, but if I'm given a blank piece of paper and told to draw something, it's actually quite hard to do that. Okay, we've got lots of questions coming up. And Lizette says, does it work on edible rice paper? No. But what you can do, you can't write on it, but what you can do is make amazing shapes, because what happens is the liquid actually dissolves the wafer or rice paper, and it means you can cut out all sorts of amazing shapes. So use it a bit like, I suppose, a laser cutter would. You don't get completely sharp lines, but you get really interesting effects. So have a go and see what you can do with it. And we've got other, where do you buy them from, Doreen? I've already said we stock them online. I will give you a link when I come off air, so that you'll be able to see where you can get them from. And as I said, we ship worldwide, so wherever you are in the world, we're willing to ship them to you. But practice, I've said before, practice is what you need to do, and make sure that you're not pressing hard on the your surface. I'm doing this on paper, which is where I suggest you start, and then you move on to cakes. When you're doing it on cakes and paper, you might find, a lot of people say to me, my hand is shaking a lot, you know, it's vibrating. What you need to do is to brace your hand. For example, you can just put your other hand and brace it. If you've got a cake, if I bring this cake in here, I was using earlier, you just brace it on the turntable like that, and it's much easier if you're leaning on something to draw. If you're trying to do it like this, some of you may have a really, really steady hand, but others, I know you'll need to really support yourself, and that will really help you. Right, I'm just going to read a few more questions. Okay, I think that's everybody's questions for now, and we're just going over stuff again. So I think the best thing for you to do, if you missed the beginning, is once I post it live, is to come back and watch all the way through. I'm going to post links to my book, links to the crafty class, and links to the pen itself. If you have more questions, please do ask and I will respond afterwards. Thank you very much for joining me. If you have more questions about other things you'd like me to talk about on this Facebook Live, please let me know and I will add them to the list. The list is growing. I'm hoping to post once a week, although obviously when I'm off travelling and teaching, I may not be able to do that, but I will do the best I can. So watch for the notifications in your feeds, and I will speak to you next time. Thank you very much.